Alright, this is Chat UTD. Looking at Ruben Amorim's record at Man United in the Premier League, it reads 31 points from 31 games, 16 defeats, 8 wins and 7 draws. So we've picked up points in 15 games and we've lost 16. Averaging 1 point per game. If he lasts another 7 league games, United could go on a good run and it might well be far more than 38 points that he ends up getting. But if it continues to average out at 1 point per game, 7 more games is a 38 game season, essentially the equivalent of a season. If you get 38 points, to give you context, Spurs got 38 points last season and finished 17th, 4th from bottom of the league, which is wholly unacceptable for Manchester United over a 38 game period. The narrative around United is that the owners stink, and with better owners, managers would stand more of a chance, which I completely agree with. However, that can be dangerous territory to get into because it could lead you to almost excuse the inexcusable. And I think that might be what's happening with Amorim, in that, yeah, we all know there's a limit to what we can achieve with these owners. We all know that a manager would be more successful if they had more competent owners and more strategic, more strategy around them, etc. But even within that, there has to be some level of expectation. There has to be a cut-off point where you say, even with shit owners, that's just not good enough. You can't be getting 31 points from 31 games and say, well, it's all right, he needs to stay because the owners are shit. Two things can exist at the same time. The owners are shit and this manager is the wrong fit. And that might be that he's a wrong fit in these circumstances, including the fact we've got shit owners. It's not that he's a bad manager, he's the wrong fit, he's the wrong chemistry. I think with other owners, Ruben Amorim would be a better manager, but we don't have other owners. But what we've got to ask is he the best man with these owners? Not some fantasy world of, well, if we have better owners, he would be really successful. I go back in time to Brian Clough in the 70s. He won the league with Derby County. You don't win leagues with Derby County, even back in those days, when your underdog stories happen more than they do now. He went to Leeds United. It didn't fit. There's a film made about it, The Damned United. His ideology didn't fit that of the club. He rubbed the players up the wrong way, rubbed the board, the fans up the wrong way. The players didn't play to his ethos of the game. And it was never going to work, and it didn't. And it lasted something stupid, like, was it 40-something days? And he got sacked. Not that long after that, he managed Nottingham Forest and won more league titles and won 2 European Cups with Nottingham Forest. So either side of the Leeds United debacle, he won the league with Derby, he won the league and the European Cup twice with Nottingham Forest. So there's no doubt in the fact that Brian Clough in that era was a genius. He was a great manager, but the Leeds United thing didn't fit. With Amorim and Man United, the chemistry isn't right where it matters. The chemistry with the fans is good, but the chemistry with what he's asking for from this team, his ideology of what he wants, the board can't give him the tools that he needs to do it exactly the way he wants to do it, and he's not adaptable enough to do it with the players that he's got. So there's a tug of war going on where he has, I think, he was very successful at Sporting Lisbon, so you'd have to say probably quite a decent ideology of how he wants to play the game, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the players, and clearly it don't fit with the board because they can't give him what he wants. He's done some really good stuff around sorting out situations like Rashford, not standing for things like Garnacho's attitude. That's good. It's really positive, and he needs to be applauded for that, and the board have supported him in that respect. But I think, to be honest, if Amorim had his way, he'd come in and he'd clear decks. And we're not a club that can do that. So the mix isn't right, the chemistry isn't right. I want to make it really clear, I'm not saying I think he's a bad manager, because I don't. I think he's a potentially very, very good manager. But it's really easy to forget now that when he came in, there was a lot of talk that City wanted him to follow Pep, and I think if he followed Pep, he probably would do quite well. So I'm not saying he's exclusively the problem here. What I'm saying is this: you can't have a record of 31 games and 31 points from 31 games, and for the fans just to go, oh well, the owners are shit, and that's the exclusive argument that you have. I don't expect us to be truly competitive under this ownership, but I expect better than this. As I said, there's a line in the sand as to where it becomes just wholly unacceptable. And I think you could make an argument to say Amorim's done as badly as you could do in these circumstances. They're limiting circumstances, but he's done as badly as you can do within these limiting circumstances, because his record over the 31 league games that he's been there is worse, apart from the bottom three last season, is worse than any other Premier League team. So it's as bad as it gets. And there are mitigating circumstances, but that's still unacceptable. This time last year, when Ten Hag's job was in the balance, there was a strong suggestion that Gareth Southgate was being considered for the United job. That was met with uproar, outcry. I wouldn't say anarchy, because United fans haven't got anarchy in them, but I think it's fair to say it would have been a largely unpopular decision should he have become the United manager. If he had become the United manager and got 31 points from 31 games, again, there wouldn't be anarchy, but there would be a lot more noise than there is now. And on that, I don't think Southgate would have done worse than Amorim's done, points-wise. Does it mean he's a better, more attractive style of play manager? No. But he'd have got more than 31 points. I think that's fair to say. I haven't got a problem with Amorim. I don't dislike him. I like his ideas. I think he speaks a lot of sense. He's really candid and honest. He says a lot of what we think, I think, a lot of the time as fans. And I think in a world where you could give him all the tools that he needed, he would be brilliant. But United can't give him all the tools he needed. So it's not just his fault. And as I say, I'm not at that stage where sometimes, you've had enough of a manager. He's only been here, he's not even been here a year. And yeah, he's got his idiosyncrasies, and yes, he's got his stubborn streak, and some of the things he's doing are going to cost his job, like picking Bruno deeper in the midfield, like buying 2 number 10s when we already had 4, which has completely disrupted the balance of the team, because then he's brought Bruno back, and we haven't got as much money to spend. One, because he's already spent a lot of it on 2 players. We probably didn't need 2. We didn't need 2 of those players. And 2, Bruno now has to be shoehorned into the team instead of selling him for 100 million quid, and we could completely rebuild the midfield. So that's a shocking decision. Whoever made it might not be Amorim, but it's a shocking decision. As much as I love Bruno Fernandes. So he's going to die on that hill, isn't he? He's stubborn. He's played Bruno deep quite a lot last year, even when we didn't have Mbeumo and Cunha. The balance of the team isn't right. People talk about systems. He's not playing the players that he's got in the right positions within that system. And there is gaps that he would argue these need to be filled, of course. But going back to what I was saying, I haven't got a problem with him. It's not like when Ten Hag was coming towards the end, that Ten Hag should have been sacked after the FA Cup final. I said that at the time, and I stand by that. It was a terrible decision to keep him. 8th should be as bad as it gets. And some of his excuses that he was coming up with, and the nonsense and the drivel that he was coming out with in press conferences, infuriated me to the point where I just didn't listen to them anymore. I'm not at that stage with Amorim at all. But you can't excuse a record like that. if Ten Hag would have stayed, I think he'd have had a better record. And I didn't want Ten Hag to stay, but he would have had a better record because he can get more out of limiting circumstances. And by the way, I think there's a plethora of managers out there who do better than Ten Hag. But there's no uproar amongst the fan base, and I did a video and I reference it quite often on here, erosion of standards video. Our standards have eroded so significantly that we're in 31 games we've got 31 points, and no one's saying a dicky bird about it. Fans were singing his name towards the end of the derby. Anyone that thinks this is genuinely going to turn around, it's just blind faith based on no evidence at all, because there's not even any chinks of light. And I think one of the problems is he's got no credibility and no credit in the bank from last season. I think if they end the season really strong last season, pick up quite a few points, win the Europa League, he comes into this season and you have exactly the same start that he's had, and people say, like I've said, losing at home to Arsenal's not a massive deal. Drawing away at Fulham in isolation isn't a bad result. Did we really expect to beat City? Probably not. And you could write the Grimsby game off as a freak. I'm being very generous there. But the start to this season is you're going to get a lot more understanding about it if you've won the Europa League last year and you've played well at the end of the season, you've picked up points, and also if you've played better this season. People can quote expected goals and missed chances and all this kind of stuff. The football in general is pretty poor. And I'm not seeing any chinks of light, any shoots of recovery, any sign of encouragement, largely anyway, to suggest this is going to change. So I think supporters who plead for patience will tell you, well, forget last season, this is a new start now. But you can't just forget last season. We've picked up 4 points from 4 games this season, but we picked up 27 from 27 league games last season. And when you have such a poor start and you get knocked out by Grimsby and you show no signs of changing anything or making it any better, and you keep making the same mistakes, then I'm sorry, people are going to quote last season and think about last season, because it didn't just not happen. As I've said, I accept that when you work under this ownership, the club's sinking. It's rotten to the core, as I've said before. But there's a level of sinking that is semi-acceptable. Maybe 6th or 7th. 8th was the worst I think it should ever have got. And they brought a manager in to address us finishing 8th the previous season and not starting particularly well. And we finished 15th and are showing no signs of recovery this season. So I'm not here shouting Amorim out. I don't like that that definition, that categorising yourself as one or the other. And the United Stand, Goldbridge does it quite regularly, where he says, are you Amorim in or Amorim out? I'm not identifying myself as one of those two things, because I don't think I need to. I'm just talking about the situation as I see it. I'm not shouting for his head. I'm not Amorim out. I was Mourinho out. But other than that, I wouldn't categorise myself as really desperately wanting any manager out, particularly. I thought Ten Hag should go. I thought Ollie should have gone earlier than he did. But I'm not going to be shouting from the rooftops about it, and I'm certainly not with Amorim, because as I said, I like him. But I must confess, I didn't realise it was that bad. I didn't realise his record was that bad. And seeing that in black and white is quite a stark realisation that that's just not okay. And as fans, we can say, well, he should have a centre midfielder, he should have a more experienced goalkeeper, he should have a right back, they should have supported him more specifically with what he needed in the summer. That might all be right, but shoulds and shouldn'ts are a fantasy world that don't exist. What did happen? And within what did happen, can he do a better job? And if you're so infuriated by the behaviour of the owners, and it's their fault, then as a fan base work harder to get rid of them. But no one wants to do that. So all United fans really want to do is sit and moan about the owners and give patience to managers simply because the owners are shit. In this instance, it's simply because the owners are shit. Because as shit as they are, this is absolutely inexcusable. It's wretched form. Over quite a period of time, we're not talking 10 games, we're talking 31 games, the best part of the season nearly, really. So yesterday, now inevitably the rumours start. He's got 3 games to save his job. I call bullshit on that. I don't think he's got 3 games to save his job because I think it's speculative guesswork because the international break's probably around that time. The club won't want to pay him off. He's got a large number of coaching staff that he's brought with him that'll also need to be paid off. They'll have to pay someone else out of their contract to get them, unless they go for an interim. So I don't think they will sack him anytime in the very immediate future. I think it's inevitable he will go, but I don't think he'll go in the next 3 games. So I think that's bullshit. But then the shortlist apparently is Glasner, the guy from Bournemouth, and if I need to get better at pronouncing his name, so I'm not even going to try and say it because it probably sounds completely wrong. So I need to perfect that, especially if he's going to be a serious candidate. But so you know who I mean, the guy from Bournemouth, Silva from Fulham, Gareth Southgate, and Pochettino. Well, Pochettino is the manager of the USA who've got a World Cup, so that's bullshit. Pochettino's not going to manage Man United when he's got a World Cup coming up. His name just gets thrown in. He could be 85 years old, his name will be thrown into it in however many years' time. Silva is a massive no for me. Another point, I'll get into the whys and wherefores of it, it's a no from me. Southgate would be a no. And then it comes to the other 2 for me. I think Glasner, what he's done at Crystal Palace is remarkable, really, and he's won a trophy with Eintracht Frankfurt as well. Or certainly got them to a final. I think he did win a trophy with them, a European final, which is incredible. Plays 3-4-3. I don't know whether I want that to continue or not, but if the club do, and I don't even think we've got players to play 3-4-3, to be honest with you. So I don't think it matters the formation that the next manager plays. They certainly need to invest more if they want a manager that plays 3-4-3. But he's doing it with Crystal Palace, and he's getting better results than Ruben Amorim. It's different at Palace. It's less pressure. And the guy from Bournemouth has done a fantastic job. And every time he loses players, he picks up. He does well. There's something about the Bilbao connection. I've got a real soft spot for Bilbao as a club, with their ethos, with their identity, with the Basque-only stuff. A club very much rooted in its community, and he played the vast majority of his career there. So that's nothing to say he's going to be a great manager, but just the character of someone like I loved Herrera when he came. Ever since Bilbao came and absolutely took United apart in the Europa League, probably 15 years ago now, I've always really quite liked Bilbao, and he's got that strong connection with them. But more importantly, he's done a very good job at Bournemouth. But coming and doing it at United is a completely different matter. Are these names household names where you go, wow, that's really exciting? No, not at all. But the question isn't that, really. The question is there somebody out there who can do better than what he's done? And your list is longer than that 5, because 31 points from 31 is as bad as you can do, pretty much. Solskjaer's been mentioned again, has said he'd take it if he was offered it, apparently. I'm going to say it, I don't think you should go back, but I think we'd do worse. We could do worse than him coming in for a short-term thing, but it'd have to be a short-term thing, and there'd be an understanding of that. I think results would pick up, and there's a limit to what he can do, but I think he'd do better than what Amorim's done. If he didn't want to buy someone out of a contract, for example, Glasner's in the last year of his contract at Palace apparently, so that could work at next season. But ultimately, there's always going to be a limit to what we could achieve, as I've said many times before. But can you do better than this? Can someone do better than this? And I think there's a lot of people that can do better than this. Glazers out.